The night my husband chose his reputation over me. My name is Lillian Stone. 7 years ago, I was known by many names. The fat wife. The embarrassment. The woman the billionaire kept hidden. But nobody ever called me by the name I wanted most. Loved. If you had met me back then, you probably wouldn't have noticed anything extraordinary. I wasn't a model. I wasn't glamorous. I wasn't the kind of woman magazines put on their covers. I was simply a woman who loved her husband with everything she had. And I truly believed love was enough. I was wrong. The night everything changed began with candlelight. It was our 3rd wedding anniversary. I spent the entire afternoon in the kitchen preparing Adrian's favorite dinner. The dining table looked beautiful. Fresh roses. Crystal glasses. Handmade chocolate cake. I even wore the navy blue dress he once told me made my eyes sparkle. It was tighter than it used to be. I had gained more weight over the years. I looked at myself in the mirror for a long time. Then I smiled anyway. Because I thought, tonight, he'll finally be proud to call me his wife. I had no idea that before midnight, my marriage would be over. Just as I lit the last candle, I heard expensive heels clicking across the marble floor. I didn't even have to turn around. I already knew who it was. Vivian Blackwood. My mother-in-law. She walked into the dining room as if she owned the air everyone breathed. Her eyes swept across the table. Then they landed on me. She laughed. A romantic dinner? I smiled politely. Yes. Adrian has been working so hard lately. I wanted tonight to be special. She looked at the candles. The flowers. The cake. And then back at me. What a waste. Before I could respond, she pulled a thick envelope from her designer handbag and tossed it across the table. It slid through the candlelight and stopped right in front of my plate. Sign it. I frowned. What is it? Divorce papers. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My fingers trembled as I stared at the papers. I kept waiting for someone to laugh and tell me it was all a cruel joke. But Vivian's face never changed. She looked at me the way someone looks at an old piece of furniture they were finally ready to throw away. Sign them, she repeated. I don't understand. Oh, don't pretend to be surprised, she said coldly. You knew this day would come. I slowly pushed the papers back toward her. I'm not signing anything until Adrian gets home. A faint smile appeared on her lips. You still believe my son makes the decisions in this family? Before I could answer, the front door opened. My heart skipped a beat. Adrian. I hurried toward the hallway, expecting him to smile the way he used to when we first fell in love. Instead, he walked past me while talking on his phone. Yes, tomorrow's press conference is confirmed. No mistakes. He ended the call without even looking at me. You're home. He nodded absent-mindedly. I've got another meeting in an hour. I forced a smile. I made your favorite dinner. He glanced toward the dining room. It'll have to wait. Something inside me quietly broke. 3 years earlier, Adrian would have canceled an entire business meeting just to spend an evening with me. Now, he couldn't spare 10 minutes. Vivian folded her arms. Perfect timing. She pointed at the divorce papers. I've already explained everything. Adrian froze. For the first time that evening, he actually looked at the papers. Then at me. Then away. He already knew. My chest tightened. You knew about this? Silence. Adrian. He rubbed the back of his neck. Lillian. No. I shook my head. Look at me. Slowly. He raised his eyes. Tell me you didn't know. His lips parted. But no words came out. That silence hurt more than any insult ever could. Just then, the television in the living room switched on automatically. One of Adrian's interviews was being replayed on a business news channel. The reporter smiled brightly. Mr. Blackwood, the entire country wants to know one thing. When are you finally getting married? I frowned. Why were they asking him that? Everyone already knew he was married. Didn't they? Adrian's recorded image smiled confidently at the camera. I'm still waiting for the right woman. The room became completely silent. I felt the blood drain from my face. My eyes moved from the television to the man standing only a few feet away. Then back to the screen. I whispered. No. Vivian chuckled. Now you understand. The world doesn't know you exist. I stared at Adrian. You told everyone you were single? He closed his eyes. It wasn't that simple. It is exactly that simple. My voice cracked. You erased me. I was protecting the company. The investors don't understand. I interrupted him. No. You were protecting yourself. Tears filled my eyes. For 3 years. I celebrated your birthdays. I stood beside you through every failure. I prayed for you every night. And you were telling the world you were waiting for someone else? I had never seen Adrian look so ashamed. But shame wasn't enough anymore. Vivian walked toward me slowly. My son has a public image. He represents luxury. Perfection. She looked me up and down. And then there's you. Every word landed like a knife. I lowered my eyes. For years, I had tried every diet, every exercise plan, every miracle product. Not because I hated my body, but because I wanted the man I loved to be proud of me. Instead, I spent 3 years hiding inside a mansion that never felt like home. Adrian finally spoke. Mother, that's enough. She ignored him. No, Adrian. It's time she hears the truth. Then she looked directly into my eyes. My son isn't ashamed of marrying beneath his social status. She paused. He's ashamed of having a fat wife. The room spun around me. I couldn't hear anything for several seconds. Only one thought echoed inside my mind. Was that really how he saw me? I stared at Adrian. I just wanted him to deny it. To laugh it off and tell me his mother was lying. Most of all, I wanted him to walk over and say the one thing I'd been waiting 3 years to hear. I love you exactly as you are. But he didn't. He just stood there. Silent. And that silence said everything. I wiped the tears off my face. Adrian, is it true? He looked down. I never wanted to hurt you. I almost laughed. Because that's what people always say after they've already broken you. Then just tell me the truth. He finally looked at me. I was afraid. Of what? Of what people would say. Something inside me went completely numb. So you were ashamed of me? Lillian. No. I held up my hand. Don't explain it. I looked at the man I had loved more than anyone in the world. You should have told me 3 years ago. His eyes filled with tears. I did love you. Maybe you did. I swallowed hard. But you never loved me enough to stand beside me. Vivian suddenly stepped forward. Enough drama. She placed another document on the table. This is your settlement. I looked at the number. It was huge. More than enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life. For a second, I just stared at it. Then I pushed it back. I don't want your money. Vivian raised an eyebrow. Don't be ridiculous. I said no. You'll regret this. I looked at her. I already regret 3 years. Adrian stepped closer. Lillian. I looked at him. What? He hesitated. There's one more thing. My heart started racing. What? His eyes dropped to my stomach. Vivian's expression shifted. I already knew what she was thinking. I placed a trembling hand over my belly. I'm pregnant. Nobody moved. For a few seconds, there was nothing but silence. Adrian stared at me. You're pregnant? I nodded. A small, shaky smile slipped out anyway. Yeah. I found out this morning. I was going to tell you tonight. I reached into my handbag and pulled out a tiny white box. Inside were baby shoes. I'd bought them just hours ago. I set them on the table. I imagined you holding them. I imagined us telling your family. I imagined you being happy. Adrian picked up one of the tiny shoes. His hands were shaking. Vivian's face hardened. No. I looked at her. What? She stared at the shoes. This child cannot be born. My blood went cold. What did you just say? You heard me. Adrian turned to his mother. Mother. She stepped closer to him. The merger closes in 6 weeks. Our investors think you're single, clean, perfect. She pointed at me. Do you know what the headlines would say? Billionaire secretly married plus-size woman for 3 years. Hidden wife reveals pregnancy. Blackwood airborne into scandal. She shook her head. Your career would be over. Adrian looked torn. I watched him closely. This was it. The moment he could finally choose. Me. Our baby. Our life. He looked at me. Then at the shoes. Then at his mother. I waited. 1 second. 2. 3. Finally, he whispered. Maybe, divorce is the best option. My heart didn't break slowly. It shattered all at once. I picked up the baby shoes. Put them back in the box. Then I grabbed my suitcase. Adrian stepped forward. Lillian, wait. I looked at him. You made your choice. I'm sorry. I know. I walked toward the door. Behind me, Vivian said. Take the money. I didn't turn around. I'd rather start from nothing than be paid to disappear. I opened the door. Cold rain hit the driveway. For a second, I just stood there. Then I looked back at Adrian. He was still by the table. The little white box sat between us. I wanted him to come after me. He didn't. So I stepped outside. The gates opened. Then slowly, they closed behind me. I walked into the rain with one suitcase, a broken heart, and a baby nobody wanted. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know how I'd survive. But I knew one thing. My child would never grow up thinking being different meant being unworthy. I kept walking down the empty road. Rain soaked through my dress. My suitcase got heavier with every step. Then suddenly, I heard tires screeching behind me. I turned. A black luxury SUV came flying around the corner. The driver lost control. It smashed through the guardrail. Rolled once. Twice. And slammed into a massive tree. Boom. The whole road shook. Smoke poured from the engine. People stopped their cars. But nobody moved. Someone shouted, "Don't go near it." Another person started recording. Oh my God. I'm filming this. I stared in shock. Someone call an ambulance. No one answered. Then I heard it. A faint voice from inside the wreck. Help. I dropped my suitcase. And ran. Someone grabbed my arm. Lady, are you insane? I pulled free. Someone's inside. The passenger door was crushed. I ran around the car. Through the broken window, I saw an elderly woman trapped inside. Blood was on her forehead. Our eyes met. She whispered. Please. I didn't think. I grabbed a piece of metal from the road and smashed the remaining glass. Don't worry. I've got you. She cried out. My leg. I looked down. Her leg was pinned under the dashboard. Smoke was getting thicker. Flames were starting under the hood. We didn't have time. I pushed the metal. Nothing. I pushed again. Still nothing. Come on. I screamed. I thought about my baby. About the life inside me. Then I pushed with everything I had. The metal shifted. Just enough. Now. I reached in and pulled her out. She screamed in pain. I kept pulling. 1 inch. Then another. Finally. We fell onto the wet road. I dragged her away. And then, boom. The SUV exploded behind us. Heat hit my back. The woman grabbed my hand. You saved me. I could barely breathe. I just did what anyone would have done. She looked at me. Then why didn't anyone else move? I had no answer. My vision blurred. The last thing I heard was a siren. Then everything went black. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. A nurse stood beside me. You're awake. I immediately touched my stomach. My baby? The nurse smiled. Your baby is fine. I closed my eyes in relief. Then she added, You have a visitor. An elderly woman in a wheelchair rolled in. Her forehead was bandaged. But her eyes were sharp. She looked at me. You're the woman who saved my life. I shook my head. Anyone would have done it. She smiled. No. They wouldn't have. A man in a suit stepped in behind her. My name is Samuel Rhodes. I represent Mrs. Eleanor Ashford. I froze. I knew that name. Everyone did. Eleanor Ashford was one of the most powerful women in the country. She studied me for a moment. Then said something I never expected. Lillian Stone. I want to offer you a job. I blinked. A job? She nodded. Not charity. A job. I didn't understand. You don't even know me. Eleanor leaned forward. I know enough. I know you risked your life for a stranger. I know you refused money from the man who broke your heart. And I know you're about to become a mother. She placed a business card on my table. Come work for me. I stared at it. For the first time that night, I felt something I thought I'd lost. Hope. I picked it up. I'll work hard. Eleanor smiled. I don't need perfect. I need brave. She looked at me. And Lillian. Your story isn't ending tonight. She paused. It's just starting. 7 years later. I stood in front of a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking Manhattan. My reflection stared back. I was still plus size. Still the woman Adrian once tried to hide. But I wasn't hiding anymore. Behind me, my 7-year-old son ran into the office. Mom. I turned and smiled. Hey, Noah. He hugged me tight. I finished school early. I kissed his forehead. Good job. I'm proud of you. My assistant walked in with a folder. "Mrs. Stone, the acquisition is complete." I looked up. "What did we acquire?" She smiled. "Blackwood Holdings." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The company that once destroyed my life was now mine. I closed the folder. "Schedule a board meeting." My assistant nodded. "When?" I looked out at the city. "Tomorrow morning." I smiled. "Tell them the new owner will be there." I didn't know it yet. But tomorrow would be the day Adrian Blackwood finally found out who his hidden wife had become. The next morning, I walked into Blackwood Holdings. I wore a simple black suit. I didn't try to look thinner. I didn't try to become someone else. I walked in as Lillian Stone, the woman Adrian had once been ashamed to stand beside. The boardroom went silent when I entered. Adrian was sitting at the head of the table. He looked at me, and all the color disappeared from his face. "Lillian?" I smiled politely. "Good morning, Adrian." He stood slowly. "I don't understand." I placed the acquisition documents on the table. "Blackwood Holdings now belongs to Ashford International." His hand started shaking. "You bought my company?" "No." I looked directly into his eyes. "I saved it." The board voted. Adrian was removed as CEO. But that wasn't the moment that broke him. It happened when the boardroom doors opened. A little boy ran inside. "Mom." I turned and hugged Noah. Adrian stared at him. His eyes moved from Noah to me, then back to Noah. "How old is he?" I didn't answer immediately. 7. Adrian's face changed. He looked at Noah's eyes. The same eyes he had seen in his own childhood photographs. "He's my son." I quietly nodded. "Yes." He looked devastated. "Why didn't you tell me?" I took a slow breath. "You made your choice 7 years ago. I didn't want my son growing up wondering why his father was ashamed of his mother." Adrian lowered his head. "I was wrong." "Yes." "I was afraid of what people would think." I looked at him. "And now?" He wiped his eyes. "Now I know I lost the best woman I'd ever had because I cared more about strangers' opinions than my own family." For the first time, I felt no anger. Only peace. "You didn't lose me because I was fat, Adrian. You lost me because you made me believe I wasn't worth being proud of." He nodded through his tears. "Can I at least know my son?" I looked at Noah, then back at him. Being his father happened 7 years ago. I paused. "Becoming his dad starts today." Adrian nodded. "I'll spend the rest of my life proving I deserve that chance." I didn't promise him anything. I didn't take him back. I simply gave him the chance to become a better father. 1 year later, I stood on a stage accepting the National Entrepreneur of the Year award. Thousands of people applauded. I looked into the audience. Noah was sitting beside Eleanor, and Adrian was sitting several rows behind them. He wasn't hiding me anymore. But more importantly, I wasn't looking for his approval anymore. I held the award tightly. Then I smiled. For years, I thought my body was the reason I wasn't enough. I was wrong. My body was never my weakness. Believing someone else's opinion was more important than my own, that was my weakness. I looked at my son. And I realized something. The woman Adrian once tried to hide hadn't disappeared. She had simply found the courage to step into the light. And that woman was me. Lillian Stone. My story didn't end when my husband rejected me. That was the night my real life began.